Before the start of the meeting, I'd like to turn the floor over to Mayor McCarthy for the SURA meeting.
Call to order the Schenectady Urban Renewal Agency, and I'll entertain a motion to adjourn the agency to 5:30 Monday, July 1st.
I'd like to make a motion.
Moved by Mr. Mancini, seconded by Mr. Farley. All in favor? Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. I'd like to call the City Caucus meeting to order for Monday, June 24th, 2024. We have two public hearings this evening. If the clerk would please read.
Public hearing number 1 regarding the amendments to the City of Schenectady zoning ordinance relating to the Hamilton Hill redevelopment plan, also referred to as the Schenectady 40 project, in the area of Albany, Page, State, and Schenectady streets.
Public hearing number 2.
Public hearing number 2 regarding amendments to the Schenectady City Code on proposed changes to the City of Schenectady Historic District Ordinance and related historic district and zoning ordinances.
We have 15 items for original consideration. If the clerk would please read item number 1.
Item number 1 for final consideration, an ordinance regulating vape shops, smoke shops, vape lounges, hookah lounges, and vape consumption businesses.
Discussed in committee without objection on consent. Item number 2.
Item number 2 for original consideration, a resolution accepting the independent auditor's report for 2023.
Discussed in committee without objection on consent. Item number 3.
Item number 3 for original consideration, a resolution approving the information technology incidents response plan.
Discussed in committee without objection on consent. Item number 4.
Item number 4 for original consideration, a resolution authorizing the mayor to accept $1,569,494 law enforcement technology grant from the New York State Department of Criminal Justice Services.
Discussed in committee without objection on consent. Item number 5.
Item number 5 for original consideration, a resolution authorizing the mayor to accept $513,495 grant award from the New York State Department of Criminal Justice Services.
Discussed in committee without objection on consent. Item number 6.
Item number 6 for original consideration, a resolution declaring the Schenectady City Council as the lead agency for the Mohawk Harbor Dock project.
Discussed in committee without objection on consent. Item number 7.
Item number 7 for original consideration, a resolution declaring that the adoption of the ordinance creating section 264-113 of the Code of Ordinances is a type 2 action and is not subject to environmental review for the State Quality Review Act.
Discussed in committee without objection on consent. Item number 8.
Item number 8 for original consideration, a resolution authorizing the mayor to enter into a professional service contract with Dr. Kelly Tobin for services for members of the Schenectady Fire Department.
Discussed in committee without objection on consent. Item number 9.
Item number 9 for original consideration, a resolution authorizing the sale of 463 Hewlett Street for $60,000.
Discussed in committee without objection on consent. Item number 10.
Item number 10 for original consideration, a resolution authorizing the sale of 629 Lang Street for $47,500.
Discussed in committee on consent and on consent without objection. Item number 11.
Item number 11 for original consideration, a resolution authorizing the sale of 1525 Mervyn Avenue for $180,000.
Discussed in committee without objection on consent. Item number 12.
Item number 12 for original consideration, a resolution authorizing the sale of 1821 Lennox Road for $150,900.
Discussed in committee without objection on consent. Item number 13.
Item number 13 for original consideration, a resolution authorizing the issuance of revocable permit number 685 to Social Hospitality Group, LLC, DBA Social on State for a sign that will overhang the city's right-of-way at 447 State Street.
Discussed in committee without objection on consent. Item number 14.
Item number 14 for under contract and supply, a resolution awarding the bid and contract for the North Ferry Street Pump House exterior restoration rebid to Mid-State Industries LTD in the amount of $621,811.
Discussed in committee without objection on consent. Item number 15.
Item number 15 under contract and supply, a resolution awarding the bid and contract for the Steinmetz Lake wall restoration, base bid and add alternate to G1 Construction Incorporated in the amount of $158,001.
Discussed in committee without objection and on consent. We have 2 additional items to be placed on the agenda this evening. Item number 15A, if the clerk would please read.
Item 15A under unanimous consent, A resolution delaying the interest and penalties for the 2023-2024 school tax delinquencies.
I need a motion to place 15A on the floor.
So moved.
Second? Second? Yes. Unanimous consent is unanimous consent of the members present. It's unanimous consent of the members present. All in favor? Aye. Oh, yes, we have a second by Mr. Williams. Yes, we have a second. Is there any discussion? Okay. So, all in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Okay. And I'd ask for a motion to place item 15A on the consent agenda.
So moved.
Second? Second by Mr. Mancini. All in favor? Aye. It's, you may go ahead. I'm going to move them to the agenda, and then we'll vote, okay? I need a motion to, for motion, item number 15B to be placed on the floor.
So moved.
I need a second. Second by Mr. Williams. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
I ask for a motion to place 15B on the consent agenda.
So moved.
Second. All's in favor? Aye. Thank you. If there's nothing more to come before the City Council caucus, I ask for a motion to adjourn. Moved by Ms. Patrick. Second by Mr. Williams. All those in favor? We are adjourned. I'd like to call the City Council meeting to order for Monday, June 24th, 2024. And I'd like to call on Reverend Angela D. West of the Union Missionary Baptist Church for the prayer invocation. Come on up.
Let us bow in prayer. Most gracious, wise, and everlasting God, we thank you for this opportunity to come together for the benefit of the people of Schenectady. Father, we ask that you search our hearts through and through so that the work that is conducted here tonight is done in decency and in order. Father, we pray that the decisions that are being made on tonight would benefit the young, the old, the poor, the rich, the least of us, Lord God, so that all people are included in the decisions that are being put forth on tonight. We thank you for all those who have come out, who not sought it robbery of their time to be a part of the decisions being made for the city of Schenectady. We need you. These are times, Lord God, that are sometimes uncertain for some, but we know that you are a God of all people. So we pray that the work being done is for all people. We thank you, we love you, we honor you, and we ask these things in your name. Amen.
Amen. I'd like Shane Bargy to lead us in the pledge. Thank you. I'd ask the clerk to please complete the roll call.
Mr. Toro's absent. Mr. Farley? Here. Mr. Mancini?
Here.
Mr. Mutaverin?
Present.
Ms. Patrick? Here. Mr. Williams?
Present.
Ms. Porterfield?
Here. Yes, thank you. We have two public hearings tonight. And I just want to remind everyone that the public comment period is extended to 4 minutes, and I respectfully ask that each person only speak to the subject relevant to the public hearing itself. Public hearing number 1 is regarding the amendments to the City of Schenectady zoning ordinance related to the Hamilton Hill redevelopment plan, also known as Schenectady 40 project, in the area of Albany Street, Page Street, State Street, and Schenectady Streets. And I have no one signed up to speak. So I would declare this public hearing number 1 closed. Public hearing number 2 is regarding amendments to the city code on proposed changes to the city's Historic District Ordinance and related historic district and zoning ordinances. I have 2 people signed up to speak. The first person is Gloria Kiston.
Good evening, and thank you for this opportunity to comment on the proposed changes to Schenectady's Historic District Ordinance. I'm representing Schenectady Heritage Foundation, which is a 501c3 corporation that advocates for historic preservation. There are a lot of very positive changes that have been proposed, we think. There are a few things that we wish would not be changed, and at the top of that list is leaving the number of commissioners at 7. We do not support reducing that number to 5 with one alternate because we know that there are several applications waiting to be reviewed, I guess by the mayor's office for people who do want to serve on this commission. And when we first heard of this proposal, we did reach out to several of the historic districts that are organized, and this is how these applications came into City Hall. So we hope that you will retain that number. We think that a 3-person quorum is really too small in order to deal with some of these complicated and pertinent issues that come before that commission. We're glad that a lot of the language has been updated and brought into this century, so to speak. And we're also glad that there will be a proposal to list the historic districts and landmarks on the city's website so that it's available to prospective buyers so they will know right from get-go that certain rules apply to buying properties. We like the addition of having review for telecommunication equipment, which has really severely negatively impacted at least the Stockade Historic District. The other suggestion we would make is to have the Historic District Commission, whose name will change, I hope, have the power to appoint commissioners and with the mayor's review, because we feel that the mayor has a lot more important things to do with his time. And the Historic Commission is much more familiar with people within the network of historic preservation. And we think that if they initiate appointments to the commission with the review of the mayor, perhaps it would be an easier process. So those are our suggestions, and we hope you take them into consideration. Thank you.
Thank you. Michael Barron?
Good evening. So I am Michael Barron, and I reside in the GE Realty plot. I'm also the vice president of our neighborhood association, and in August I will have been serving on the Historic Commission as a commissioner for 1 year. And the reason why I decided to come tonight is because I'm also in agreement with Gloria as far as not reducing the number of commissioners from 7 to 5. We're down to only 4 right now, and we just recently had a resignation, and so it kind of makes it difficult sometimes to have a quorum when somebody is going to be out, and I just hope that maybe everybody would reconsider. I do understand there are some applications that are in right now with some qualified people that would probably benefit the commission very well. My experience or expertise is not in preservation, but I'm passionate about preserving the history of this neighborhood and the 5 historic districts that we have. I think that we have a gem or several gems here in the city of Schenectady, and they need to be protected. So thank you.
Thank you. I have no one else signed up to speak on public hearing number 2, so I declare this public hearing closed. I would ask for approval of the minutes for June 10th, 2024. Moved by Mr. Williams, second by Mr. Farley. All in favor? Aye. If the clerk could please read any communications and petitions.
Communications presented to City Council for Monday, June 24th, 2024. Under official from the mayor, a list of appointments dated June 24th, 2024. Under general from Michael Ziperi, a letter to the city clerk's office thanking she and all her staff for always addressing his issues. And under petitions from Jamaica Miles, a petition dated June 10th, 2024 of 108 printed names from various zip codes requesting a ceasefire. That's all.
Thank you. I call on council members to provide any committee reports. Any committee reports? All right. Seeing none. This time we'll have privilege of the floor related to the legislative agenda. I have 2 people signed up to speak. And just a reminder, you have 3 minutes for this particular portion. Genevieve Hart has an online submission. Okay, she's here.
Hello, my name is Genevieve Hart, and I've lived in Schenectady County for most of my life. As a high schooler, I see the effects of tobacco usage on youth on a daily basis. Vapes are a massive issue that school districts and communities across the area are facing. In the last few years, the problem has gotten much worse. During every locker break, during homeroom, lunch, and after-school sports games, and even during class, there are students vaping in the bathroom. The smell of cotton candy or mango vape smoke fills the bathroom and the hallway outside. Even after our school has spent countless hours and resources on tackling this issue, it persists. And vaping isn't just a problem in the high school. My brother, who's in 8th grade, sees vaping in his school on a regular basis as well. Earlier this year, I conducted interviews with students, teachers, and faculty at my school. I learned that over half of students in my school vape. Vapes are known to be very damaging to a growing brain and body. School staff that I interviewed reported that students' academic and athletic performance has been noticeably impacted by vape usage. Students told me how their friends have become addicted very quickly and become apathetic towards school and life. I've seen this myself as well. However, among all the information which I gathered from these interviews, the most important thing that I learned was that vapes are terrifyingly accessible vapes to youth. Every single person that I interviewed agreed with this. There is a vape shop located in between the middle and high school in my school district, within walking distance, and located along a high-traffic road where many students walk daily. Additionally, many students are able to get vapes from their older friends or siblings, and they sell them in the school bathrooms. The problem only continues to grow despite efforts made by the school. In order to make our schools and our communities safer for our youth, local legislation and enforcement must be implemented. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Judy Reitmeyer?
Hello, I'm Judy Reitmeyer, Director for Tobacco-Free Communities. Because there's a causal relationship between exposure to tobacco marketing and promotion and youth initiation, it makes sense to restrict where vape and smoke shops can be located, keeping them distant from youth-friendly places. This proposed zoning change appears to do that. But the most recent data we have indicates that there's 145 tobacco retailers in the city of Schenectady, and only 16 of them are the smoke and vape shops that the ordinance would address. That means 129 tobacco retailers can operate without any restrictions regarding locations. And as we've demonstrated before, these retailers are also disproportionately located in high-poverty neighborhoods, which also have the highest rates of youth and adult tobacco use. The more tobacco marketing and promotion a young person sees, the more likely they are to start using. The more tobacco marketing and promotion that adult smokers sees, the less likely they are to quit. The 129 retailers that aren't smoke and vape shops can sell all tobacco products, including e-cigarettes, and all the flavored tobacco products, including cigars, cigarillos, chew, and hookah. It's well established that flavored tobacco products pose the greatest risk to young people. Flavored tobacco products attract youth, and flavored tobacco products addict youth. When flavored cigarettes were made illegal in 2009, youth increased their use of the cigars, the flavored cigars and cigarillos. When flavored e-cigs arrived, youth left behind those tobacco products, those cigars and cigarillos, and went to e-cigs. And of course, we saw that a third of high school students in 2018 were vaping. Certainly, there are some loopholes that need to be addressed on a statewide level for the flavored electronic cigarettes that are still being sold illegally. Only 11% of the adult population in New York smokes. That translates to about 7,700 adult smokers in the city of Schenectady. With 145 retailers in the city, that breaks down to 1 tobacco retailer for every 53 smokers in the city. The purpose of this local law is to protect the health, safety, and welfare of the community. The families that live in the neighborhoods with a disproportionately high tobacco retail presence would be better protected if the presence of all tobacco retail marketing and promotion was less visible and prominent. And certainly we're available to talk about various evidence-based strategies that would help make that more equitable for everyone in the city. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you. I have no one else signed up to speak, so I declare the public comment on the legislative agenda closed. At this time, I'll entertain approval of the legislative consent agenda. Moved by Mr. McBaron, second by Ms. Patrick. All those in favor? Aye. This time, we'll have privilege of the floor regarding general city business, and I have 7 people signed up to speak. First person is Fatima Isat.
Good evening. My name is Fatima Isat, and I'm a resident of the city of Schenectady. 5 years ago, my mother passed away. I received the news when I was on lunch duty at a local school. The news came as a huge shock to me, and I immediately left the lunchroom and went to the office to ask the staff to send another teacher to take my place. I then went to the staff room. Within minutes, the staff room was filled with teachers consoling and comforting me. I can still see their faces, filled with concern and love. Soon after, as I left the school building, a few of my students stood at the glass door and watched me get into my car and drive away. I can still see their faces, filled with concern and love. As soon as I got home, my phone did not stop ringing. Family members from all over the world were calling me and offering me their support and love. I still remember those conversations and the pain and shock in their voices. Close friends in the Capital District came to my house to sympathize and show their concern and love. I can still picture them sitting with me at my dining room table. That evening, a neighbor showed up at my door with a huge tray of food for my family. I still remember that rice and chicken. The next day, teachers from the school came in groups of 2 all day long to sit with me and give me strength. I still remember the ones who came and how their visits meant so much to me. A few days later, a beautiful flower arrangement was delivered to my house. It was sent to me by a nephew in Australia. I can still picture those flowers. When I returned to school 4 days later, I was given a box full of condolence cards which had been made by my students. I still have those cards. Was it possible that the love and concern of my coworkers, students, friends, neighbors, and family members would bring my mother back? No. Will I always remember and be grateful for their support in my time of overwhelming grief? Yes. Mayor McCarthy, Madam President, and members of the Council, for the last 9 months, people all over the world have been grieving over what is taking place in Gaza. Would a ceasefire resolution passed by you put an end to the bloodshed? No. But would it mean the world to people like me? Yes. Will I ever forget your unwillingness to respond favorably to our pleas? No. Will I continue to fight for justice in Palestine? Yes. Thank you.
Thank you. Claudia Kavanaugh.
Good evening, Councilor, Mayor, and Marion. I am so glad that you folks are returning to city business. I'm starting to think that maybe you should have an addendum to the city charter saying that, from now on, you won't take any, action in regard to international situations. We have a lot of things to do here in this city. And the Jewish residents of this city is far better, and I was born and raised here, and so are you. We've eaten. The Jewish community has done more for Schenectady than any other ethnic group in this entire city, all of them put together. Between the Golub Corporation, they fed us. The Wassermans, I remember when I was little, they owned Grand Cash Market. Very generous people. Between their philanthropy and the foundations. The Music Haven up in Central Park. I'm dismayed at what's going on up in Saratoga. They're turning that town into a nightmare with the Black Lives Matter group up there, threatening white people. It's a racist, disgusting organization. And Mayor McCarthy, I remember 4 years ago, I came down here, stood in this very spot, and I said, let's not take sides with anybody. Let's not stand, let's not have that on the street of the city that I own property in and that I pay property taxes. And I think the time has come so that we don't take sides with anyone, to show that we are an inclusive community. We always have been. And Carmel, I'm glad you stood up and spoke for yourself at the last meeting. I saw it online that you were being threatened or felt threatened. And well, you should. And I think that you have a right to defend yourself and your family being threatened. And Damani, ever since you were born, you were...
Ma'am, the comments have to be made to the chair.
I'm sorry, Marion.
It's Ms. Porterfield, if you don't mind.
Oh, Ms. Porterfield.
Thank you.
I don't mind. So there is a petition that is being started in the Jewish community to remove the Black Lives Matter sign off the front of the street of City Hall. This is the people's house, and we shouldn't show favoritism on any level because we've never been that kind of community. So I think the time has come. And so maybe, you may make a addendum to your charter so that these kind of situations don't come up again. And everyone lives here and they shop at Golub Corporation. I don't know where else you're going to get your food from. As far back as I can remember, Jewish people have owned Grand Cash, Albany Pork Store, which had the best meat in town, and Market 32. So let's try to put all that aside and just be a city of, we always have been, like we always have been, and let's not take sides. So hopefully you'll make an addendum to the city charter so that these kind of situations and divisiveness don't come up again. And Mayor, when I get the petition back, I will deliver it to your office, and hopefully, something you'll take the proper action that I asked you to 4 years ago. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Sohib Shakima.
Good evening. I believe God's work still shows in this hall right here. So the Reverend who led the prayer earlier reminded all of us that God is the God of all, and He doesn't have boundaries. He's not selective. And also, as we try to pledge allegiance, we also talk about freedom and liberty for all. Yet, here we find ourselves thinking that peace is when we actually turn a blind eye to a group that continues to suffer for 9 months. And I'm not going to raise my voice today, but I'm going to start with a point that actually was mentioned the first meeting. As the Zionists came in and they said, we're here because we lost in Albany. We're not here because we lost. We strongly believe, just like Martin Luther King, Malcolm X, all these fighters, they won. They might have been killed, but they continue to live. Their names will continue to be mentioned beyond my time and your time. And those politicians who wanted them out, we don't even know their names, let alone to remember them. God will preserve the names of those who actually live through God, not those who claim to be God's people. I'll tell you this, as a Muslim, I knew people of different faith backgrounds. But through this fight, I made friends with Jews and Christians and atheists, and you name it, because we understood that, you know what, we had a common goal, and that is to preserve life. I preach, but you know what I know? Preaching is easy. Anyone can stand and preach. But walking the walk of God that He made it very clear to us, that's the difficult one. And most people will fail. And actually in our Quran it says this, to our own prophet, which was mentioned to Moses and Jesus, bleed not and weep not if they do not come and support you, for God did not like the way that they came, so God made them sit because He doesn't want them to be part of this noble fight. The only losers for me and for the Jews and the Christians and the atheists who are on my side, we know that we're not losing. I promise, deep inside each and every one of you, those with conscience, you know you are on the wrong side of history. You know it doesn't matter how many guards you're building in front of you. It doesn't matter how many people you try to actually bring into your inner group to make you feel comfortable. You know when you go home at night, you know that you are on the wrong side of history. But are you ready to meet God and say it was political? Because lives, God never put them as a political issue. They're humanitarian and a faith-based issue. And I rest my case. Thank you.
Thank you. Valerie Toriano.
Good evening, council members. I'm here as a resident of Schenectady for 10 years in support of a people's resolution of Schenectady for a permanent ceasefire, as 261 days of the ethnic cleansing and genocide of Palestinians by the apartheid state of Israel is inhumane. I can understand where the council is coming from with saying this doesn't affect us at the local level, as y'all have no jurisdiction over this. However, it is still extremely important to at least acknowledge how we're all financially complicit through our taxes and those who are New York State and local retirement system pension plan members. But yeah, funding the apartheid state of Israel's genocidal collective punishment of Palestinians. Palestinian Schenectady citizens are mourning their lost loved ones or worrying if they're even alive. Even the United Nations has officially recognized through independent investigations that the state of Israel has committed war crimes and the intentional genocide of Palestinians. This is no longer a debate. Israel is committing a genocide. The United Nations has also added the state of Israel to a blacklist of countries that harms children in armed conflicts. I've seen videos of the most psychological, sadistic military tactics by Israel's military, using quadcopters playing the sounds of crying babies and shooting any Palestinians who come out to help what they believe is a child in need. I imagine having to listen all night to the sounds of a crying baby, not knowing whether it's real or a trap to kill you. Let's put our critical thinking caps on and ask ourselves, if Israel isn't committing ethnic cleansing, then why won't Israel take in Palestinian refugees or take in injured Palestinians into their hospitals after bombing all of Gaza's hospitals? Israel's claims all Jews are Israeli does more harm to Jews than the diaspora, as it's conflating that all Jews are responsible for Israel's genocidal actions, which is absolutely not true, when there's anti-Zionist Jews speaking out that Zionism doesn't speak for them. To conclude, silence is complicity, and Palestinians' blood are already on all of our hands. Thank you for your time to listen to my words.
Thank you. Jamaica Miles.
short people problems. My name is Jamaica Miles. I've lived in this city for almost 50 years, born and raised here, lived in communities all across this fair city. Conflating criticism of the state of Israel to Jewish hatred is intellectually dishonest and morally offensive. Our focus has always been the United States' material support for the Israeli government's shooting, bombardment, and starvation of innocent Palestinians. People of varying faiths, races, ethnicities within the city stand in support of a ceasefire resolution, including those of Jewish faith and culture. This is a fact evidenced by every city council meeting for the last 3 months and the more than 1,000 names who signed the petition for a ceasefire resolution, names that some of you choose to ignore. City residents you choose to ignore. At the last city council meeting, as anti-ceasefire speakers approached the podium, they were handed pre-printed scripts, much of it filled with red herrings used to justify the more than 100,000 civilian Palestinian casualties, the starvation of millions, and the administrative detainment of thousands held by Israel without due process. No one has the right to oppress and murder others. No one. Netanyahu and his brutal regime need to be held accountable, and there must be an end to the U.S. support of genocide. There must be a prioritization of funding in our local communities, not funding of warfare and bombing babies. The Schenectady City Council has been unable to come together to pass a ceasefire resolution for the people of Gaza or for the people of Schenectady. So the people of Schenectady will. The people will pass a resolution proving the power of the people and our commitment to bend the arc towards justice. The previous petition collected, as I mentioned, over 1,000 signatures, calling for the city of Schenectady to pass a ceasefire resolution for an immediate ceasefire to end civilian bloodshed, free hostages and political prisoners, and ensure humanitarian aid access to Gaza. The new petition is very direct, quite literal, and fully transparent with its language. It is the people's resolution, and we are sharing it with the public, the specific language of the people's resolution, and we will continue to build upon the diverse community calling for freedom, justice, and liberation, and for our representatives to stand for that freedom, justice, and liberation for all of us, not just some of us. Thank you.
Thank you. Sean Young.
Good evening, Madam President, Mayor, City Council members. Tall people problems. You know, I was sitting today thinking about what I was going to say today when I came to speak to you all and speak to our community that's watching now and will be watching later. And you know, I come to the conclusion that you all have heard enough. You've heard it all. You've heard about the death of children, of women, of you know, children that lost their parents, parents that lost their children. You heard of the starvation, the maiming, the constant killing. Since the 2 weeks since we were here before, there's been hundreds more killed and thousands detained. It's going on and on and on. I don't know if I'm going to tell you anything different. I guess the question I would have is, what would be enough? What would be enough to compel this body to act collectively for the city of Schenectady in calling for a resolution or calling for a ceasefire in Gaza? What would be enough? Would it be 100,000? Would it be 200,000? 3? Do we need to see the starvation of the entire population of Palestine before people stand up and say, hey, this is wrong? I mean, I don't know. I think the People's Resolution makes a lot of sense for us to just collectively come together as a body and say, hey, let's get this thing out there. Let people air their opinions, have their voices heard, and have a way to channel that energy, because people are feeling so horrible about what's happening. I mean, I heard some of our residents here speak tonight about, you know, own ethnic group doing more for the community, and I'm just like sitting in the back and I just couldn't believe what I was hearing, because all I hear when I hear that is what justifies what's happening there, what justifies our silence. And I don't think that we as a community stand for that. I know some of you all, I've spoken to every single one of you, I know that you are good people, and I know that in your heart, I believe you know what the right thing is to do in this situation, but I understand it's complex for a whole host of reasons. I'm here just to continue to push, I push the voices of the community, push my own voice and have my voice heard here, and to example or model what it is to come up and speak for what you know is right. Martin Luther King says, it is always the right time to do the right thing. I have now always lived by that in my own life, certainly, but as I've grown older, I've come to really respect and cherish words like that. As I live out my days here in the city of Schenectady, my home, the place where I was born in, it is always the right time to do the right thing. I want to speak briefly just to some comments about what happened at committee meeting, where what we saw, in our opinion, was words or a conflation of violence and criminality to what was happening with people coming out just simply speaking to what they thought was just and right in the world. And there's an entire history about how that type of language is used to suppress the voices of the people and suppress what is right. And I would say that it is important that we recognize that when we're speaking, that there's an entire history and context to it that could be harmful to the community that you're speaking about. Thank you.
Thank you. Selwa Khan.
Problems. Okay. Good evening. My name is Selwa Khan. Before I start, I just want to reaffirm that Black Lives Matter, with or without a mural on our street. I am so tired. I don't want to be standing up here anymore. In fact, it makes me anxious. But I have a responsibility not just to my humanity, but to my community that is continuously slandered and harmed through this body and the rhetoric we continue to hear here. Every day I wake up to horror upon horror. I call my elected officials, I repost bloodshed to my social media pages, hoping it changes a heart. I come to city council meetings. I recognize if the drippy tap was in Gaza and not my kitchen, precious drops of gold would be going down the drain. I pray. I acknowledge that the scraps of food I just tossed is probably the most Gazans have gotten to eat today. I pray. I speak circles of disbelief and grief with my family and friends. I pray. I sleep. I wake up. It repeats. I unfortunately don't have anyone to write a speech for me or hand it to me on my way up here, and my exhaustion lays with the exhaustion of everyone behind me. So today I'm going to start the laborious task of reading the names of people killed by Israel, aided by our tax dollars, to remind us what not bringing a ceasefire deal to the cheers and claps of our community members to this body is the cost of. This list is from November. I will start from here and continue to remember each life lost in future meetings. Rayan Abdullah Zakaria Al-Estel, less than 1 year old. Mian Yahya Yusuf Al-Estel, less than 1 year old. Salam Wa'il Ahmed Al-Estel, less than 1 year old. Zain Al-Din Suleiman Al-Najjar, less than 1 year old. Yasmin Ramez Abdullah Razak Al-Masri, less than 1 year old. Maria Yasser Kamil Al-Masri, less than 1 year old. Aisha Jahad Jalal Shaheen, less than 1 year old. Rahima Saadi Muhammad Shaheen, less than 1 year old. Muhammad Mamdouh Muhammad Abu Jazar, less than 1 year old. Tia Mamdouh Muhammad Abu Jazar, less than 1 year old. Baha Mustafa Jamal Musa, less than 1 year old. Rakan Hussam Hussein Musa, less than 1 year old. Musk Mahmoud Ibrahim Higazi, less than 1 year old. Ahmed Muhammad Amin Nofal, less than 1 year old. Son of Nabila Nasser Muhammad Nofal, less than 1 year old. Muaz Hani Muhammad Eliadi, less than 1 year old. Qais Ali Nabil El-Adi, less than 1 year old. I will continue next week. May they rest in peace. Our blood is on their hands. Their blood is on our hands.
Thank you. Frank Wicks.
Okay, The Schenectady Council people that are supporting a ceasefire are doing the right thing for Schenectady. They're doing the right thing for the United States. They're doing the right thing for the Palestinians. They're doing the right thing for Israel. Why are they doing the right thing for Israel? Israel has lost control of itself. Tom Friedman, who's the column's ultimate champion of Israel, he's calling for a ceasefire. Every rational person that sees what's going on is calling for a ceasefire. We've dropped enough bombs on Gaza, correspond to about 5 or 6 Hiroshima bombs. We've killed civilians. Now they recognize that there's no end game. So the best thing you can do right now is to call for a ceasefire for all concerned. A final note is we have the Israeli lobby. There's one congressman, Jamel Bowman, he calls for a ceasefire. You know what's happening to him? $15 million from the Israeli lobby is going to defeat him in the primary tomorrow. That Israeli lobby should be illegal. They don't represent the United States. They no longer represent the interests of Israel. It's not clear who they represent, but they're damaging to Schenectady, they're doing damage to the United States, they're doing damage to the Palestinians, and they're ultimately damaging Israel. You know, Confucius noted that anyone goes for revenge digs their own grave, and Israel is digging their own grave right now.
Thank you. I have no one else signed up to speak, so I declare the public comment of city business closed. At this time, any miscellaneous business of the council? Ms. Patrick.
I wanted to talk about the new swimming pool in Central Park. Last week, the schedule was published. I appreciate that the Boys and Girls Club stepped up a little bit earlier. I was out of town last week, but I appreciate that the mayor opened the pool early because of the heat wave last week. So the hours at the new pool are Monday to Friday, 8 a.m. to 9 a.m. there's an adult swim, 12:30 to 6:30 there's an open swim, 5:30 to 6:30 p.m. there's one lane open for an adult swim, and on Saturdays and Sundays from 12 to 6 it's an open swim. I also wanted to mention that on the 4th of July, there will be a reading of the Declaration of Independence here on the steps of City Hall at 10 a.m., and I hope folks will come out for that. And I also wanted to mention that there is a food pantry being started as a satellite pantry it's a satellite pantry to the Daily Bread food pantry at St. Luke's. It's going to be over at 1040 Pearl Street at the Holy Name of Jesus. It'll be open on Mondays from 3 to 6 p.m. And they're looking for volunteers. They need volunteers in the morning from 9 to 11 on Monday mornings, and they're going to need volunteers from 2 to 4 p.m. and 4 to 6 p.m. on Monday afternoon. So if anyone's interested in volunteering, you'd be contacting a woman named Jackie, whose number is 518-836-5310, or you can email her at sldailybreadfoodpantry@gmail.com. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Williams.
Thank you. I first wanted to take a moment to just acknowledge all the voices and comments that have made their positions known at our council meeting tonight. Your words are not lost on me, as I've continuously taken notes, not just on this one topic, but just throughout my entire council career. I don't know what our next move is as a community, but I always encourage action groups to continue to mobilize within yourselves, regardless of where you're at, and challenge those societal norms and your best intent. And the one thing that I always like to point out is that continued dialogue is important and required. So as this conversation continues, apparently, I just ask that we as a community just remain open-minded and respective of this topic. I also wanted to take a moment to acknowledge a social media post that I recognized from my wife. She helped me see this. The Schenectady Fire Department, as we are entering just a heightened fire season, not just in our community, but just nationally, one of the things I wanted to highlight and just thank was CDTA, and they're making available buses so that as firefighters who in most of their full attire and apparatuses, which is very, very taxing and daunting, if you can imagine, in this heightened heat, making available just their buses to serve as air conditioning units, and then also providing those as harboring zones just for residents who are being displaced. So truly it is a collaborative effort, and from myself to you as an organization, I wanted to say thank you. And then also I wanted to take this moment to just do a public announcement to our residents who are experiencing fires or just traumatic events that require EMS, but specifically firefighters to respond to. One of the things I was made aware of by our local firefighters is the difficulty with sometimes getting people who are in adjacent buildings out of their houses. And from myself to you, I can understand how being put in that position, having that additional inconvenience levied upon yourself is definitely a lot in some moments. But truly, I would ask you to just take a moment and move from beside yourself and understand that these men and women who are challenged to save lives are doing so with the best intent in mind. And truly, there's no ill will in their ask for you to evacuate, and your assistance and cooperation truly aids their attempts to make sure that there are no lives lost in any of these events. So I just wanted to say thank you to our local EMS responders. The mayor continuously lauds not only these individuals, but also our police department for their efforts. But definitely as we enter just a heightened fire season, just please be collaborative and cooperative. Thank you.
Thank you. Mayor?
Thank you, Madam President. Appreciate everyone coming out tonight and your comments. Councilmember Patrick's talked about the swimming pool. We had a successful opening. It was delayed a little bit because of construction, almost a year for Central Park, but it's clearly a great investment for the community and want people to be able to use it for many years to come. Quackenbush and Front Street are also opening now. Today was a little bit cooler. I think we're going to get another couple hot days down the road, so people be cautious, drink fluids, and sometimes take a little bit of time to check on some of your neighbors or elderly senior citizens who might also be in a situation that could be compromised by the high heat. Thank you, Madam President.
Thank you, Mayor. I'd also like to thank everyone for coming out tonight. I appreciate everything that you have to say, and know that I am listening and taking all these things in consideration. I want you to know, for those of you who are supporting the ceasefire, I appreciate that you continue to do the work, and I'm actually glad to hear that there's going to be a people's resolution, because I think the people who are supportive should be able to participate in that way. So with that, I have nothing else, and I'll ask for a motion to adjourn. Moved by Mr. Williams, second by Mr. Farley. All those in favor? We're adjourned. Have a good evening.